although they're guaranteed to learn all 10 spells by level 16. And the Dragon Lord, which in the vanilla version of the game has 130 hit points, has a range here of 150 to 165 hit points. So quite a bit that is going on here. And also want to thank our restreamer, WeeJuWee, and our tracker, CyberDark86, as we are set to go here. So we have the 3 chests in the start. We've got a fighter's ring, we've got some big bucks, and we've got the obligatory magic key.
So the fighter's ring will help a little bit, but of course our racers, you can see the statistics for the start on the screen there. They actually are beginning with 18 strength, which is a pretty reasonable score for this early, and should be able to handle most of the monsters they'll encounter in this first zone.
And no spell or wings to be able to utilize the return to hold on to that key. And oh, we are swamp locked to a degree. Oh boy. So this should be interesting here. Those swamp tiles around the castle, each step reduces your hit points by 2 damage. So Kaiten, yep, able to escape to the south, and okay, you can't really can't really pace too far there, so looks like, yeah, for the moment that the strategy is going to be grinding along the forest just outside the swamp. And WillWagnerMusic encountering a ghost and is able to take it out. And now we'll see about a magician, and that would potentially get WillWagner to level 2. In fact, with 4 experience and the target number being 5, pretty much any enemy will get WillWagner up to level 2. And an excellent move, a critical hit on a ghost, will certainly do that. So we'll see what level 2 brings here, as we've got 13 power, 2 response speed, no hit points, 3 magic points, and a spell. Make it 3 of them. Heal, Radiant, and Outside.
Well, this is certainly off to a very interesting start. They got some big strength boost there on top of their already relatively high starting strength, but still no more HP, so that means they have a limited field in which to work in order to find those experience points in the early game.
But now Will expanding to the north and finding some warlocks, a little on the strong side for him. As Kaiten now taking out a Drakey and is just 1 experience away from level 2, and this is actually a pretty small swamp, all things considered. I don't believe that Big Swamp was rolled, as the running gag seems to be, and WillWagner getting ambushed by a Magiwyvern, and he's going to get wrecked, and meanwhile, Kaiten is going to get level 2.
So with the heal spell, they can obviously branch out and do a little bit of exploration, but the HP is still so low that every couple of steps trying to get out of that swamp, they'll have to expend at least a little bit of MP. And it looks like the monsters that are in the surrounding zones may be close to a little bit too much to handle this early.
Here's level 3, 2 power, 2 speed, 4 hit points, 6 magic points, and the spell of Repel. Now, the way that the Repel spell works is you cast that spell. It also works the same as the item, the Fairy Water. And any enemy whose strength is equal to or lower than your defense, you will not encounter on the overworld. And given that their defense is only in the 9 or 10 range, it wouldn't behoove them to utilize it now. And WillWagner taking out a Drakema is going to leap to level 4 here with 6 power, a response speed, 21 magic points, and 10 hit points.
Wow, so with each new level, it looks increasingly like this early game could go pretty quickly, whereas with this starting swamp, you thought maybe if the enemies were difficult, you might have a little bit of a slow start, but actually now the stats are piling up pretty quickly.
Ooh, well, one thing that could be a little problematic here in this level 4 to 6 range, the Metal Scorpion with Sleep Spell, but WillWagner able to get away. And Kaiten getting to level 4 just as WillWagner gets wrecked by a knight. It's only about a 40-second differential between level 4 acquisitions for both of our racers.
So at 5 minutes in, that's a reasonable start.
Yeah, all things considered. Now, our racers are going to be looking for the Silver Harp as well as the Stones of Sunlight and Erdrick's Token. Those 3 items, well, once they get the Silver Harp, they're going to be trading that in for the Staff of Rain. But the Staff of Rain, Stones of Sunlight, and Erdrick's Token will be traded in to acquire the Rainbow Drop, and that will create a bridge over some troublesome water to get to Charlotte Castle, home of the Dragon Lord.
This next phase could be pretty interesting. Both players appear to be willing to branch out and explore a little bit, but they've taken a couple of deaths already. And it's in this sequence that sometimes you can pick up the time that will win you a match or lose the time that will end up costing you in the end. One wonders if they might not be better served at this point to stick around some of the slightly weaker enemies while they still only need a little bit of experience to pick up their next level.
Yeah, it seemed like, now even though their defense is pretty low, given where their attack power and strength are, it wouldn't hurt them to look into enemies like a Drakema, for example, as that had given 20 experience to WillWagner a little bit ago. Maybe even considering a little bit stronger than that. Well, oh wow, we got a Metal Slime
of course
on Kaiten's side. He gets an excellent move, a critical hit. He's going to take it down for 255 experience. Wow, that's going to get Kaiten up here to level 6.
Yeah, so I suppose that would be the exception. If you can land a critical on a Metal Slime, then that stands you in pretty good stead right now. A very early experience lead for Kaiten.
I was going to say, was there a spell with that as well? Well, we've got level 5 now for WillWagner. And there was sleep acquired. Now, I believe that was at level 6 that it was acquired. It didn't exactly mention here, but we'll see once Will goes to cast another spell. If he's able to cast another spell. And just like that, Kaiten is up to level 7.
Some more big gains on that level 7. You can see the difference right now, even looking at the tracker, between Kaiten's stats at level 7 and Will's stats at level 5. There's a bump of 20 agility there, almost twice as, well, actually exactly as many, twice as many hit points. So he's got a little bit of a lead even here within 10 minutes.
Ooh, Star Wyverns with the Dragon Lord Breath, doing anywhere between 64 to 72 hit points of damage.
Very dangerous, and certainly does not have the HP to keep up with that sort of a battle at the moment, even with the higher strength.
Oh, and Kaiten has found the town of Cole, so able to spend some money, but more important, able to search this spot, which has, well, it has one of 3 things. In this case, it's the Fairy Flute.
A little disappointing. When you're kind of off to the races, you hope to pick up the armor there, but nevertheless, Kaiten's still off to a very good start.
Yeah, it can have either Erdrick's Token, the Fairy Flute, or Erdrick's Armor. What the Fairy Flute does is for one of the tougher enemies in the game, the Golem, it is used to put the Golem to sleep, as it is a guaranteed sleep, but at the cost of 8 seconds to play said flute. And, ooh, Kaiten getting ambushed by an Axe Knight, and back he goes to the castle. But having purchased a copper sword, not losing too much gold, every time you take a death, losing all your hit points, you get revived at the castle, but at the cost of half of your gold.
And because of that, anytime you can convert some of that gold into some useful equipment in the early game, that's definitely beneficial, not just for the equipment bonus, but to make sure that gold's not going to waste.
So, Will Wagner seeming to run away from the metal scorpions. That might be around the type of enemy with that 42 attack power to consider.
I feel like this would be a good zone. He's going to pick up his next level here.
And there it is confirmed that the spell of sleep was acquired at level 6. Oh yes, how quickly I forget, the metal scorpions have sleep, and Will Wagner wanting to avoid those. So, yeah, maybe not the enemy of choice, but now, fighting sleep with sleep.
And give them a little taste of their own medicine there.
And it is effective, so there's a nice 31 experience gain. And Kaiten has found the bad news about the Star Wyverns with Dragon Lord Breath.
Yeah, that's bound to happen. I like this. It's interesting here. Sleep can be so useful in these sort of early middle levels, especially when you have a higher strength score. Under normal circumstances, this would be a very difficult fight since Metal Scorpions do have sleep, but he's able to, at least in that last Metal Scorpion fight, take it out in 2 hits just by using that sleep spell. Kaiten there, I think, trying just about anything he can in desperation to try to get away from this red dragon. But it's not going to work out on this occasion.
Yeah, the command manipulations that worked so well, which is pretty much just a roll of the dice regardless. The manipulations that you see of the hitting the B button to bring up the command multiple times, while that works in the vanilla version of the game, and in fact there is a manipulation, it is impossible with the billions of different seeds to make any type of determination of manipulation in the randomized form of Dragon Warrior Randomizer. And Eternal Newbie noting that red dragons have the spell Stop spell, which could be very good in the later portion of the game, as that is a lot less potent of an attack than actually them attacking you, as strong as they are.
Certainly, and once both Erasers have Erdrick's armor, then that spell will be essentially a wasted turn for the red dragon, and anytime any of those powerful late-game enemies have a stop spell, that can buy you a couple of turns here and there and save you a lot of time and energy.
Will Wagner has been quietly creeping up to the experience gap, or closing that gap between Kaiten and Will Wagner. Now only about a little over 100 experience, but certainly one of the challenges running into endgame enemies like the wizard and the dragon, the red dragon.
So you can see there's a definite contrast in the way they've chosen to go about this. Will has been quite content to sit in his little patch of desert here and pick up some more experience relatively easily. Whereas Kaiten has been sent back to the castle a couple of times by some very difficult enemies as he's exploring.
Oh, and for a little bit of trolling, Will Wagner finding out that the Scorpions have heal more, but nonetheless, Will going to get to level 7.
So a couple of big boosts in that level, picking up 20 agility for starters, which will help in running away from some of these monsters, although Kaiten has not had such great luck doing that so far.
I should probably mention the level that you see at the bottom of the statistics that are listed there, as the pluses next to strength and HP has to do with the build that our racers have opted for. And something you may not have known from the original version of the game is that depending on the characters, letters, or numbers that you put in as your name at the beginning of the game, the first 4 of those characters, an algorithm is calculated that will determine a bonus to 2 of your 4 statistics, either strength and agility, strength and hit points, agility and magic points, or hit points and magic points. And both of our runners with their respective letters of the lowercase d and the capital Z or Z, both indicating strength and HP. The colors, in the meanwhile, you saw early on that the numbers were in the red. A couple of them, most notably the defense and the hit points. That means that it's pretty much subpar for the start, as Kaiten now getting wrecked by a rogue scorpion here. And the white is pretty much meaning that you're on the climb. The orange means you want to start thinking about contemplating maybe risking it to go to the Dragon Lord if you have a bunch of orange stats. And then when you see those numbers go green, that means that stat is in an acceptable range to go for the Dragon Lord.
Ooh, and did we know Wyverns had Dragon Lord breath before that battle?
I don't believe we did, but Will Wagner certainly found out the hard way.
Yeah, he has been unfortunately made aware. I do like his general strategy to this point. He is taking some sort of weaker monsters here. He's seen that there are red dragons a little bit further to the west. He knows that there are some now dangerous enemies a little bit further to the north. So we'll see if he continues to stay kind of in the same area and continue to pick up some experience here and there. A chunk.
And this is the challenge that runners in the Dragon Warrior Randomizer community run into, and what leads to a whole litany of different strategies is how long do you stick around and try to level up versus when do you start to explore and start looking for the items. But on the same token, how far do you get in going with that search before perhaps dying and having to start over again because you're not strong enough to? So there's a constant back and forth as far as when a good time is to just get a little bit stronger versus when to go out and venture and try to find things.
Absolutely, and it's an interesting contrast we have here because Kaiten has been out exploring since taking that metal slime, really. And Will has been a little bit more conservative to this point, but now you see he's branched out a little bit and is exploring in a different direction. And sometimes that's critical, and sometimes too you just feel the pressure a little bit. You know, maybe you start to think your opponent might be ahead, and so it's time to push forward.
And meanwhile, Kaiten still has a roughly 90 experience lead as, oh wow, Stone Man with the Dragon Lord breath. And there was a town on Will Wagner's side that we weren't quite able to see what it was.
It didn't make it any easier that it was also locked in by Swamp. But certainly if Stone Men also have Dragon Lord breath, then that just complicates things even a little bit more, as we've seen. That's several enemies now with an attack that can basically take them out guaranteed one hit at this HP level.
Yeah, the chat apparently going with their own different naming rights for the town. The town of No Town for You, the town of Nope, and the town of Death.
It could certainly be a little while before either runner's able to make it there.
An Eternal Newbie noting that we have Stone Men. Oh, wait, we have level 8 for Kaiten here at the 20.5 minute.
Looks like 13, 3, and 7 there. 7, of course.
And the Hurt Spell.
So no MP on that level. Just Strength, Agility, and Hit.
So already at level 8, 6 out of the 10 spells have been learned by our runners. Or at least by Kaiten. Wagner will learn Hurt once he gets to level 8, which will be at the target number of 600 experience points. And
looks like he's
Dragon Lord Breath on Star Wyvern. Yet again.
Running in the Wyvern family so far. I'm not the Magic Wyverns have proven slightly less difficult, and Will looks like he's about to try to take one out here.
Well, this isn't a bad idea. I guess the question is, given how strong a Magic Wyvern is, I mean, that's usually an upper level enemy, that mid to late game. But he is able to take it out for 83 experience.
So that's a big boost, and it'll help him catch up a little bit. That said, in those situations, you always have to weigh the amount of time you have to, and resources that you have to spend fighting that monster against. Perhaps fighting weaker foes instead.
Yeah, like a Wyvern, he decided to sleep and run from that one. Perhaps realizing, alright, my resources are low and I'm trying to get to whatever this town was. I still have a lot of healing to do before I can get there. And it's 3 steps away, gonna take a heal. And it is Remeldar! So we have access to magic keys, the one town where you can freely go and purchase keys. That is going to be a huge advantage here for WillWagnerMusic, as that will allow for, well, once he goes back to the castle, the possibility of opening up the treasury, which has 4 treasure chests, as well as the locked door in the back of Tanagil Castle, which leads to the basement, and that could lead to another cave, that could lead to a number of different things.
Exactly, and so even though Kaiten currently has the experience lead, Will, by finding Remeldar and having a little bit of gold to spend on some keys, has kind of shifted the balance a little bit, in that he'll be able to do exactly what you said, check out that treasury, or any other, open a couple other doors.
Well, the weapon and armory, a little on the light side, but still, with the exception of a bamboo pole, too rich for Will Wagner's blood, and actually, Will's going to find out that the inn is a little too rich for his blood either.
That's always just a little bit disappointing when you come up a few gold short of topping off before you leave town.
Oh, and Will Wagner able to run away from the Blue Dragon. That's one of the tougher enemies in the game. Probably one of the top 5 toughest enemies. And we have a cave on Will Wagner's end, on the south end, and it is the Vanilla Stones of Sunlight cave, also known as the bonus cave, because it is a free chest, and we've got the Stones of Sunlight. So that is one of the key items that are needed in the game.
Yeah, so now we'll just need to track down the silver harp so that he can eventually acquire the staff as well as Erdrick's token. So we've got another cave sighted.
And in the interim, Will Wagner had seen that little sliver of desert kind of in the middle, and almost akin to the compulsion to search a particular spot where there's just one tile off of a bridge. Opting to search it, but it didn't have anything there. And, well, we've got... That turns out that was Swamp Cave South. And Will Wagner noting that if you cast the spell of Outside on the southern end, it automatically transports you out to the northern end, and in this case, it is another end of the land. Meanwhile, Kaiten getting slept and wrecked by a Druid Lord.
So Druid Lords usually are a good target as long as they don't have anything too bad, but that was Sleep and Hurtmore just there, so that's probably not going to be as tempting a target as it might normally be.
And WillWagnerMusic getting up to level 8. And has his Hurt spell. And Smashy, yes, that was the Diet Wombo combo on the Druid Lord of the combination of Sleep and Hurtmore, as opposed to what is known as the full Wombo combo of Sleep and the Dragon Lord 2 Breath.
I think Kaiten now making his way also toward Rimuldar has had several attempts to try to get over here, but it seems like each time a difficult enemy blocks his way, and almost was taken out by a Hurtmore again there by a Druid Lord. And now was taken out by a Hurtmore by a Druid Lord.
And Firelight noting there's combo number 5 where they ambush, Sleep, and DL2 Breath. Where's Lou Bega when we need him? Oh wait, that's Mambo number 5.
Close enough.
And now we get to see what is in the treasury once this non-playable character moves out of the way. We've got a torch. We've got some big bucks. We've got a fairy water, and some more big bucks.
So of course that means a gold grind will be in play, but to this point, still a little bit early, but haven't actually seen too much to spend that gold on just yet.
Yeah, the most expensive thing thus far that I believe we have seen is the large shield in Rimuldar, although I don't know if anybody had gotten a look, if Kaiten had gotten a look at the shop in Cole when searching for the fairy flute.
I'm not sure that he did. I think the only shop we've seen thus far is Rimuldar, and yes, I think the large shield was the best piece of equipment available there.
Will Wagner was looking for a torch and then opted to use Radiant instead, and we see that in the basement of Tangential Castle is the Mountain Cave. So access to 5 treasure chests here. And technically a grind down here as well. Interesting. Now, how that works, chests respawn every time you go to the overworld map, but due to the programming limitations at the time the game was made, the game only tracks up to 8 chests as open. So every chest open beyond that 8th chest can be taken over and over again. So in this case, because in the throne room, the 3 chests are already marked as open, so you don't take them over and over again or spam them. Between that and then, in this case, looking into the treasury, which I believe that was a magic key to start off with. So now you're going to see, well, there it says the magic key, even though that is not the case. And I believe that was the cursed belt. So the upper, we did not see what was in the coal shop, Smashy. So we know not as of yet. But we do know what two of the treasure chests are. There was a magic key and a cursed bell. Although it looked like it was empty and a magic key because of the gold grind glitch being in play. Or I should say the treasure chest glitch. They're hoping it is a gold grind glitch, but we shall see. Well, there is the potential gold grind there, and there as well. So 2 chests with gold.
Interesting, Will walking away and opting not to, or maybe he's on his way back, having realized. Yeah, here we go. It's always a little bit of a dilemma, though, to do an early gold grind. You don't quite know exactly what you're going to encounter when you'll see the next town that might have some equipment that's worth purchasing. But probably reasonable to at least make us a decent withdrawal here while you've got the opportunity.
I guess the other concern is, let's say Wagner doesn't make it all the way down to that 5th chest, then I guess it runs into a question of, do you go back to that chest later? You know, could that be the silver harp? Could that be, yes, J. Coper, they do have outside, and we have level 9 for Kaiten with a new spell. Oh, Hurtmore I saw in there.
So now we're in a very interesting place. With Hurtmore, you can possibly get some experience from some more advanced monsters, but at the same time, even with the experience lead, Will has established a decent lead in terms of exploration and item gathering at this point, so it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out as the seed continues along.
So along with Hurtmore was the spell of Return that was acquired at level 9. So we have 8 out of the 10 spells acquired here by level 9. The only 2 not yet acquired are Stop Spell and Healmore.
So earlier I said small withdrawal. I think I perhaps underestimated. Oh no.
Well, you can add that to the list. So these skeletons also have Dragon Lord Breath. So that is now the 4th enemy that we have encountered with that.
And that said, Will did choose to take over 30,000 gold, so even having taken that death, he's still left with a pretty tidy sum.
And is going right back down into the mountain cave to try to extract that final chest, just in case it is something important. If it's, let's say, Erdrick's sword, for example, the best weapon in the game. But
yeah, absolutely.
But now, Kaiten with that Hurtmore spell is just decimating enemies and has already jumped out to a sizable experience lead. And is closing in on level 10. Meanwhile, that last chest, well, it says hand axe, but it looks like it is a fairy water. And that confirms it. Now, one of the issues with the treasure chest glitch is that sometimes it provides it just kind of pulls from the inventory of words and puts a combination of things. Sometimes you'll see an axe ghost, sometimes you'll see a sword magician, just to name a few. And now Will Wagner going back to the gold grind. Because why not? He's here already, and at this point, he could grind back up to what he's looking for, cast outside. Lord of the Synth noting in chat that yes, Harp Knight is another one that tends to be seen. And yes, that was an Armored Knight with a stop spell. But Will Wagner here could grind up to the amount that he's looking for, cast outside, go back up and save with the king, so that way, if a death should occur with all that gold, it would just be a matter of hitting reset.
Yeah, definitely. If he can get out of the mountain cave and save up here, he can take a few different paths to try to find a town that's worthy of his gold expenditure.
Ooh, and that was a pretty beefy amount there for level 10.
Oh my goodness. So in stark contrast to some of the races that we saw yesterday, the attribute gains through the first 10 levels here have been rather impressive in terms of strength, at least. They're in a position where with some more MP and agility, they'll be fairly formidable even in the early teens.
Yeah, Kaiten already with 91 strength at level 10. So with the fighter's ring equipped, once they acquire Erdrick's sword, which is the best sword in the game that gives you an additional 40 attack power, you're looking at 133 attack power right now.
Exactly. Kaiten right now, just like I said, with the addition of a little bit more HP, a little bit more MP for those heal mores, you'd be in position to take on the Dragon Lord. And it's interesting now that we've seen that the Armored Knights have Stop Spell as well. If you'll recall, the Red Dragons do too. So if those are two enemies that are heavily involved in the eventual Sharlock dive, that might make that particular passage a little bit easier.
But yeah, the chat noting that the agility is extremely low. So while the strength is certainly formidable, it's negated by a lot of other factors. As Will Wagner, just a few steps away from the town, is going to one-shot a Metal Scorpion, so no more sleep issues there. And we have coal, so we're going to see what's in that coal shop. And with the money that Will Wagner has, first is going to beeline over just in case it's Erdrick's armor. We know it is not. It's the Fairy Flute. So that means that a little more shopping may have to be done, but you can see the Flame Sword right there. So that is the second best weapon in the game, and then the half-plate armor, that is right in the middle of the pack. That is the fourth best out of 7.
It's interesting here, Red Dragon's also with weak breath, as Kaiten's having some struggles getting away from this one. As pointed out, that agility score at this point compared to a Red Dragon's is just far too low. You're going to have a very minimal chance of running away from a Red Dragon at this stage.
So now Will Wagner cleaning up the inventory a little bit and is selling the Cursed Belt for 180 and the Fighter's Ring. Now, when you sell the Fighter's Ring, you still reap the benefits, the 2 attack power of it. That's a little something that, in the initial vanilla version of the game, it was a bugged item that if you put the Fighter's Ring on, it did absolutely nothing. Except look good on your finger, perhaps. And similarly, donning the Dragon Scale, and is going to sell that back to clear up some inventory. So that's going to give an additional 2 defense power. So now Will, with that very powerful sword, should be able to handle a lot of the enemies here, and is only a little over 200 experience away from getting to level 9. Dragon Scale does what it's supposed to do in vanilla. You equip it, and you get 2 additional defense points.
So it's interesting, Kaiten now has Hurt More at level 10. Will Wagner has his Flame Sword, so that he might be able to take on some more advanced enemies, but at the same time, the more we see of this map, the more expansive it looks. We've encountered only several caves to this point, one of which was inside Tanager Castle to begin with, and only several towns.
And we see Sharlock on Kaiten's side. I believe while Will could be fighting these enemies, I believe he is opting to hold off and save it, as he is hoping with that 14,801 gold exactly to look for a town that has the silver shield, which is the best shield in the game, giving an additional 20 defense points to the total.
Definitely. It can get a little complicated, though, as you're seeing here in this Rogue Scorpion fight, trying to hang on to that gold, especially if you've only got the heal spell at your disposal. He's able to get past at least that Rogue Scorpion.
So Kaiten using Hurt More on a knight. And, oh, Will Wagner finding out about the sleep. And the Hurt More. And gets wrecked.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So there's almost 7,500 gold essentially lost to a death whammy. And Will going to spin again here.
I'm always in for a press your luck reference.
So Will going back into the treasury to raid a little bit. Does not quite have enough for the treasure chest glitch. But still opts to take another roughly 1,300 gold. And now here comes level 11 for Kaiten. Ooh, not much to it.
Yeah, that one was a little shallow. It looks like Will here is going to use the sleep spell in conjunction with that newly acquired flame sword to take out some of these enemies. Magic Wyverns are a reasonably good target for this particular strategy.
So Beta Stripe noting in chat that Kaiten at this point is apparently a glass cannon. In that having 107 attack power and 24 defense. And now here comes level 9, and Will Wagner is going to enjoy the Hurt More spell.
Yeah, Kaiten's been in a position where he really hasn't found a cave yet, so he hasn't been able to build up any kind of a gold reserve. He's been sent back to Tandagel quite a few times. And so he's going around without some armor on, and with that 95 strength and that copper sword, he's quite powerful, but unfortunately not really able to fight many of those more advanced monsters, except those like the knight that he can take out with a single Hurt More.
So Will Wagner, at least with equipment, has a bit of an advantage. Kaiten, of course, with the experience advantage of about a 1,300 differential. And you see that the difference between two levels. So Will, it looks like, is exploring and just kind of fighting some of the enemies along the way. And we know that our runners had found the, I believe Will had found the swamp cave a little bit earlier.
That's correct. So It'll be interesting to see which direction he intends to explore here, but I think a fighting exploration is a reasonable idea at this point. You've got hurt more. You can kind of pick your battles a little bit. It'll be tougher to run away from some of the stronger monsters, but that was always going to be the case anyway. So, opting to pick up a large shield here to maybe help with some of that.
And here at the 45-minute mark, it's been an interesting challenge. I don't know if it's necessarily been tough, but it hasn't exactly been a cakewalk either, as Kaiten has gotten the experience lead. So far, we have found the Stones of Sunlight. That was in the vanilla cave. Not in its vanilla location, though. That's on Will Wagner's side. Both of our runners acquired Hurt More at level 9. And a lot of the enemies have been very pesterish with Dragon Lord Breath. So far, we've seen it on the Skeleton. We've seen it on the Snowman. We've seen it on Star Wyvern. I believe there's one more as well that I'm forgetting.
I think we've got Wyverns and Skeletons too. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't have the feel of one of those, you know, sort of torture scenes where you end up with no stat gains. They've obviously had some very good stat gains here, up through level 11, agility accepted. But the map itself, while it's not too terribly challenging either, it's the discoveries have been few and far between. I say, of course, just as Will Wagner comes upon two caves that are almost directly adjacent to one another.
Indeed. And yes, it was the Wyvern that I was forgetting that we had noted. So, yeah. So far, Skeletons and Wyverns, and it looks like we have the Tablet Cave. So no enemy encounters here, but a free chest at the end. Could it be the Silver Harp? Could it be Erdrick's Sword? Could it be Erdrick's Token? It is the Silver Harp. That is one of the key items out of the way.
And maybe this will be an interesting cave here, so... It looks like we've got the Grave of Garen.
So 5 more treasure chests accessible, although 3 of them are without a key. 2 you need a key to get to, and a little bit more walking. As Kaiten is on the cusp of level 12. And the skeleton runs away.
So now about 48 minutes in, we're in not too much of a different position than we were early on in the race. Kaiten still has that experience lead, but to this point has yet to find any of those caves that will supply him with the items that he needs. Whereas Will now has the...
We have the Erdrick's Sword.
Oh, there we go.
The other 2 chests were much less pressing by comparison, an herb and a magic key. And it's too early. The colors that are on there. Well, first let's look at what Kaiten has here for level 12. So 7 power, 5 speed, 21 hit points, and 15 magic points. So in the beginning of the seed, if you see numbers that are red, that means that they are subpar. Once you're in the white, that means that you're making the climb. Once you see them in the orange, that Kaiten for the moment has the agility, hit points, magic points, and attack power on. That's where you start thinking about they're the borderline numbers where you start thinking, maybe we might go to the Dragon Lord. Then when you see them in green, as you see the strength there for Kaiten, that the green numbers mean you're green means go. You see that with traffic lights and everything else.
So that's really interesting. 102 strength for Kaiten, so even with the copper sword, he still has an attack power of 114 yet to this point, and he's just found the Rainbow Drop Cave, looks like, affectionately, or perhaps not so affectionately referred to as the Jerk Cave.
Yes, if you talk to the man in the Rainbow Drop Cave without the Erdrick's token, he literally kicks you out, which is why he is known as a jerk. Oh, and blue dragons in the Dragon Lord Breath party.
Pretty soon it will be easier to list the enemies that don't have Dragon Lord Breath.
And there's the big boost for level 10, so now Will Wagner up to 91 attack power. So you can see already in Dragon Lord 2 strength-wise, but not quite with the defense, the hit points, the agility, or the magic points. So this is a silly strength seed. This is the, where's Hans and Franz pump you up? That's pretty much what this seed is about.
That agility score is still a little problematic, but of course they're only at level 12. Hopefully those gains will pick up as they continue here.
And the last chest is another set of wings, so all kinds of wings deep in the grave. So it looks like at this point, the next target for our runners is towns. Towns, and more towns. They're going to be looking for Hawk's Nest, they're going to be looking for Garenham, and they're going to be looking for Cantlin so that they can acquire the info as far as the overworld, because that's pretty much everything else has been accounted for. Although we're also looking for the Staff of Rain Cave, as well now finding the aforementioned Rainbow Drop Cave or Jerk Cave.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but has either runner checked the single chest in Remolder yet?
Yes. Will Wagner, I believe, did earlier, and it was a torch.
Ah, okay, very good. So Cantlin's probably becoming increasingly important here because or perhaps Hawksness, so they're going to need to find Erdrick's token at some point, and it's liable to be one of those locations.
Well, here is Hawk's Nest, so Will is going to give it a go and see what the Guardian enemy is. And once it's defeated, there's a search spot. That will, well, at this point, it will provide one of three things. It will either provide nothing, it will provide the Erdrick's armor, or it'll provide Erdrick's token. And there's an Axe Knight. For level grinding purposes, that is the most ideal enemy that you can get. And in the search spot, we have Erdrick's token.
So Will's not only now increased that lead in terms of his item gathering and his exploration, but also he's found a very valuable spike tile that's got an Axe Knight, so that he might be able to continue his grind there.
So that means, yes, as the chat is noting here, that our runners are definitely going to want to find the town of Cantlin and get the coordinates from the old man in there, as... Smashy, you make me laugh, so I'll get back to that in a moment. But yes, in the town of Cantlin, the old man will provide the coordinates, and those coordinates on the overworld will lead to Erdrick's armor, the best armor in the game, and as noted previously, the best armor in all of RPGs, perhaps.
And negates that damage from damage tiles. It eliminates the possibility of having a stop spell successfully cast upon you. In addition to the defense and the 1 HP recovery per step, it doesn't get too much better than that.
But wait, there's more. It also reduces the damage done by hurt spells, as well as hurt more, and yes, the Fire Breath and Dragon Lord Breath by 1/3.
Absolutely. So essentially requisite equipment to complete the game and take on the Dragon Lord.
And Jacob, we're asking, why aren't we winning at level 12? Still a lot of stuff to search, at least on Kaiten's side. Will, while at level 10, has done most of the proverbial grocery shopping already. Is just looking for the Staff of Rain cave. Has already found the Rainbow Drop cave and is looking for Erdrick's armor. And once all that's been taken care of, can head on over to Hawksnest, where Kaiten is now. And there's a nice grind on. Oh yeah, and then there's that little business at Healmore too. Good point.
Yeah, picking up Healmore will be essential too, but Kaiten, if he's going to spend any time here and start this grind a little bit, again, just sort of shows the kind of disparate strategies here. Kaiten got out and tried to explore early and suffered a fair few deaths along the way, whereas Will sort of sat tight and picked up a few more levels than Kaiten did, even though Kaiten had an experience lead. Now Will really only needs to find the cave in which he can exchange the harp for the staff and head back for the Rainbow Drop and find Cantlin, and he'll be well on his way, presumably, by that point.
So the token pickup on Kaiten's side, but still has to find the Stones of Sunlight, which are in the Vanilla Stones of Sunlight cave, as well as the Silver Harp, which we found out is in the Tablet cave. And a wizard taking out Will Wagner, perhaps a little overzealous with that enemy.
Yeah, the 133 attack power is definitely enough to handle a wizard, but the 52 defense power means that they're still going to be hitting you for a substantial amount, and with max HP of 86 and no heal more, that makes it that can be a difficult fight.
So Will just about 69 experience away from level 11. Kaiten, meanwhile, working toward level 13, has a little less than 300 experience to go. And Will thinking very heavily here on the knight, and opts to two-shot it with an attack. And there is level 11. $4013.
Kaiten now has expanded his experience lead to around 2,000 experience points, but still has a lot of work to do in terms of finding locations and items.
Well, Kaiten has been doing a lot of fighting as he's been going along, but then the problem is he has run out of resources at a point where he hasn't quite been able to reach a particular destination to do some of that, to get some of those items on the proverbial grocery list. So what ends up happening is, being low on those resources, before he gets to where he needs to, he ends up taking a death and kind of has to start back over.
Definitely, and with the relative lack of towns found field so far, there's not really much in the way of waypoints that they could use to top off and continue that exploration. They really just have to kind of start over from the beginning.
As you see here, Kaiten just barely able to get through that swamp, and now has single-digit hit points and just one magic point, but is able to get to a cave and doesn't even have enough MP to cast Radiant, nor does he have any torches, so he's going to have to try to navigate this in the dark. But the Magic Wyvern says, alright, your navigation ends here.
Yeah, that's that's a very difficult. 1 experience point to the next level for Kaiten, and just didn't have enough resources to make any kind of an attempt at that cave. And that was an armored knight with Dragon Lord Breath, also.
Yeah.
Because why?
We're stacking up a pretty good list here. As now Kaiten's going to get up to level 13 as we've crossed the hour mark. 0 hit points, 1 magic point, 7 strength. So let me take a little bit of inventory here now that we've hit the hour mark. So as far as the enemies with Dragon Lord 2 Breath that we have seen, we have the Skeleton, we have the Wyvern, we have the Star Wyvern, we have the Blue Dragon, we have the Stone Man, and we have the Armored Knight. That could make things very arduous once our runners reach Charlotte Castle.
Yeah, absolutely. Earlier on, it was looking at least slightly favorable because those Armored Knights and Red Dragons also have Stop Spell, but if they're going to encounter that many potential monsters in the Sharlock Dive with Dragon Lord Breath, that does make things very difficult. Especially with their agility as it presently stands.
Yeah, the agility down to 53. I mean, you're looking for the agility to be in the 70s for it to get into that green range, the mid-70s. It's sorely asking, is Erdrick's armor confirmed to be buried? Yes, it is in the overworld spot. We do not know as of yet where the coordinates are because we do not know as of yet where Cantlin is to give us said coordinates.
Yeah, that's really going to be an obstacle at this point. We're going to have to find that location, and we still don't quite know where or have not seen the potential location for the Staff of Rain Cave, so...
Now, I know that there was a brief visit to the second continent. I believe it was Will who had found the Swamp Cave. So I wonder if all these things that they're looking for are on that other side.
Entirely possible. Yes. Yeah, Will made a run to the North Swamp a little bit earlier, but we didn't get too much of a chance to see what was there.
Well, we have Kaiten now in the Tablet Cave, so once he makes it through here, which shouldn't be an issue as there's no enemy encounters here, he will pick up the Silver Harp. And Will getting the gains from level 12.
144 attack power now at level 12.
So, yes, if there was a Dragon Lord fight to occur now, Will Wagner's attack on the second form of the Dragon Lord, the true form of the Dragon Lord, would be anywhere between 11 and 22 hit points. And the Dragon Lord has anywhere between 150 and 165.
It seems somewhat likely at this stage that the actual final boss will be the Sharlock Dive itself, and getting down there with enough healmores to handle the fight, because it certainly doesn't look like the Dragon Lord will be too much trouble.
And Ouija, we are restreamer noting in before the armored coordinates are 1 north and 2 east. So now Kaiten here in the grave and picks up a magic key and runs into a green dragon, runs away from a green dragon, picks up the herb and is going to get Erdrick's sword. So look at that attack boost, 151 attack power. And Ryu, welcome into the chat here. This has been interesting to say the least. To catch you up, our runners started off pretty early in terms of getting levels, at least for the first 5 or 6 or so. Kaiten has built up an experience lead, thanks in part to a metal slime kill to jump from level 4 to level 6. But the story of this seed has been the strength. This has been a bodybuilding seed and then some. As Will Wagner already at 102 strength at level 12, Kaiten at 109 strength at level 13.
The interesting thing here, of course, is that attack power is only really useful if you can sustain a battle against some stronger foes with it, and because they don't have the Heal More spell yet, that hasn't really been something they've been able to do.
And Kaiten, I guess because he's realizing that exploration is more important despite having all this strength, probably would serve him well to attack something like a wizard, because with that low agility of 53, not quite able to do much with it.
Yeah, exactly.
As Kaiten now is... Oh, here we go. Well, oh, that's right. Kaiten went back to the overworld. I thought perhaps there was a gold grind glitch being set up.
Yeah, unfortunately, he took that death to the wizard on the overworld.
An Eternal Newbie asking, doesn't Kaiten only have the one key? I don't know, as Will Wagner has found a couple of towns off here, it looks like, to the west, and one of them is Cantlin, and I thought for a brief moment that Will would be making a beeline for the coordinates, but I realized that you need a little more magic points to do that. So hitting the inn first, and then is going to make a beeline to those coordinates. So doing the calculations, making sure that he doesn't run out here.
It always feels a little bit interminable when you have to walk over those tiles without the armor and no Heal More spell.
So let's see, the coordinates 3 north and 37 west.
Well, not quite 3 and 1, but certainly within range.
But they have probably tripped over it on a few different occasions here. And I think Will wants to do a little bit more exploring and find out, I believe, by process of... Oh, no, we haven't seen Garenham as of yet. I was going to say, I believe it would either be Garenham or Breckenary. So if that town off to the west is, in fact, Garenham, then Will more than likely go into the back of it. And I believe, based on, again, process of elimination, that the Staff of Rain Cave would be behind Garenham.
Yeah, that sounds correct.
But
unfortunately,
this one's for you, Z-Man. Oh, look. It's Breckenary. Yeah, Sixth Town not proving all that fruitful, although, yeah, at this point, I don't think either of our runners are going to be doing a gold grind for the Silver Shield. Will Wagner did do one earlier in the seed, actually grinding up to, goodness, close to, I think, 32,000. Yeah. But ended up taking a death to have it fall to 16,000. Was able to pick up the Flame Sword at that point, and there's Garenham. And Kaiten has gotten to Rimmildar.
He's gonna go grab some keys. I have to say, I don't know if it gets more glass cannony than a 125 point gap between your attack power and your defense power. I don't really know that I've ever seen that.
Well, just when you think you've seen everything, something else surprises you, as here is Will now picking up the Staff of Rain. So taking a look at everything here. And Smashy, you would be correct that the Death Necklace would be in Charlotte Castle.
Just for chuckles, it'd be interesting to see either runner interested in using the Death Necklace at this point, given their already staggering attack power for their levels.
Well, to talk a little bit about how the Death Necklace works in Dragon Warrior Randomizer, oh, okay. Will Wagner doing a little bit of counting, looking over the coast of the water there, trying to count out those coordinates. But the way the Death Necklace works is you, once you put it on, not only does it curse you, meaning that if you die and go back to the castle, or just even try to walk into the castle, you are kicked out of it because you are cursed. And Will Wagner running into some trouble from the Red Dragon. But once you put that on, along with the cursing, there is a little bit of a bright side to it. You get 10 at the cost of 25% of the maximum hit points. So generally, you'll see our runners utilize that once they've hit 130 hit points or higher. So at 108, not quite there, but they also have to beef up their agility and ideally their hit point and magic point statistics as well. And Ryu noting in chat that he would still use it for the walls, but this is a serious matter as both of our runners here, both looking for their first win in this Swiss competition. They are both 0-2 and both looking to, well, they're trying to avoid being 0-3. That means they're going to have to run the table to get even a potential berth into the bracket stage of the tournament.
Absolutely. In terms of the overall tournament picture at this point, while this isn't quite a must-win situation for either racer here, it's definitely going to help them out a little bit to get that first win in the pocket.
And chat noting as Will Wagner is counting out those coordinates of 3 to the north and 37 to the west, and it looks like that it is water blocked, so it is on the other side of the swamp cave.
So it looks like we'll have to make another dive into the swamp cave first for a quick princess rescue, hopefully, and then we'll probably be able to search out that spot.
Meanwhile, Kaiten, now having access to the treasury, is now in the basement of Tanagel Castle, I should say, and that is the mountain cave this time around. So he's already picked up the, well, empty magic key chest, and is now going to get the cursed belt. Going to head north, get a couple of big bucks, and then the long winding road to the fairy water.
I'm not quite sure if the buffer there worked out, but Kaiten was able to run away from that armored knight. It's always interesting to see things like that. Obviously, they're in a situation where their agility is not really where you'd like it to be in order to run away from armored knights effectively, but just trying a little bit of hocus pocus there to try to get away.
Most certainly. And SF Firestorm 33 asking what sprites our runners are using. Kaiten on the right side is using Taloon from Dragon Warrior 4, and WillWagnerMusic on the left is using Ragnar from Dragon Warrior 4. So here we've got the swamp cave on Will Wagner's side, and we're going to see what the spike pile enemy is here. It looks like he is going to go capture the princess, perhaps.
Oh, no. Ooh, another one on the list.
And the golem has Dragon Lord Breath also.
Oh my goodness.
Wait a minute. Let me just make sure I got this right. So we have, so far in this seed, we have a skeleton. We have a wyvern. We have a Star Wyvern, we have a Blue Dragon, Stone Man, Armored Knight, and Golem, all with Dragon Lord 2 breath.
Those are that last portion of the list, I think, with the exception of perhaps the Wizard and the Red Dragon and possibly something else that I'm forgetting. Those are all monsters that are frequently encountered in Charlotte Castle, so this could be a real doozy.
Well, I believe there are 9 different enemies that can be in Charlotte Castle. So you have a werewolf, a green dragon, a star wyvern, a wizard, an axe knight, a blue dragon, a stone man, the armored knight, and the red dragon. And we now have level 13 for Will Wagner. Oh, that's right, and golems also. So that would be 10. 10 different enemies. You have some golems in there as well. So yes, 5 of those 10 enemies
So
are confirmed to have Dragon Lord breath.
Right.
So Will Wagner now bringing the princess to Tanager Castle. And chat noting that the experience differential is dwindled down to about 1,000.
Yeah, that gap is starting to close. It'll be interesting here to see what decisions are made when it comes to preparedness for the Divernon. Obviously, that attack power is so high, but just as a matter, I think, of getting through those enemies on the way down to the Dragon Lord at this point.
Yes, and for those who missed it earlier, the Druid Lords with the Diet Wombo combo of Sleep and Hurt More. So that was plaguing our runners probably about 45 minutes ago. Now, when you return the princess to the castle, she gives you her love, which in this case is jokingly known as the GPS, or Gwaelin Positioning System, meaning that she will let you know where she is in relation to you over the map, because it's all about her. Hence the "but thou must."
Yeah, so depending on the situation here, I would assume Will's headed back to the Swamp Cave to see the coordinates when he comes out on that north side, so to speak, of the Vanilla Swamp Cave.
And a bit of a misstep on Kaiten's side as he used the fairy flute on the wrong member of the Stone family. It was the golem that the fairy flute puts to sleep, not the stone men.
No, if only it were so.
But a sleep spell is pretty effective on the stone man. And then the stone man proceeded to use the Dragon Lord 2 breath that we had mentioned here.
Right.
And I have to acknowledge this awesome pun by our restreamer Ouija Wee in chat. He says that the stone man is stone deaf.
Excellent.
I have to admit, that one was pretty good. As far as puns go, I'm impressed. Props to you on that, Ouija Wee.
So that North Swamp exit looks to be pretty close to, if I'm looking at the map correctly, yeah, that's definitely close to Will's desired coordinates here, so he will hopefully make pretty quick work of locating his armor spot.
Oh yes, so 9 north, so we've got to go a little bit south and a little bit to the west, and picks it up perfectly, so there is Erdrick's armor for WillWagnerMusic. And there is more Dragon Lord breath for Kaiten.
So now really we have one significant hurdle to clear, and that's picking up the Heal More spell, which could be at any point between level 14 and level 16.
So for Will Wagner, it is drop, grind, and go. For Kaiten, still a lot of exploration to go, as he has to find the Vanilla Stones of Sunlight Cave, which, in a strange twist, has the Stones of Sunlight. As well as trading in that harp for the Staff of Rain, so that means a trek over to Garanham. And then it's essentially drop, grind, and go.
It'll be interesting to hear the Erasers' impressions of the seed afterward, given the significant amount of exploration that's required versus the stat gains that they were getting, and then all these enemies that have Dragon Lord Breath. It certainly seems like it'd be a very interesting seed to run, but we'll see what their opinions are probably in a while here.
And there was a question in chat as far as the low defense that Will has at the moment, that how hard would Dragon Lord 2 hit with 66 defense on Will Wagner's part, and the calculation of that would be anywhere from as low as 26 to as high as 53, and we've got level 14 for Kaiten and no Heal More.
And only 3 agility points, so that doesn't help on that score either.
So Kaiten's had a little bit of a challenge in that he's been trying to get the exploration done, but he's been running into some really tough enemies that have been Dragon Lord breathing him to the dickens, and it's been a matter of, well, do I try to fight them and essentially get roasted? Do I try to run away from them, fail, and get roasted? It's been a bit of a juggling, to say the least.
Absolutely, and that lack of Heal More spell is one of the significant obstacles to that. Since you have a reasonable amount of magic points, you could possibly fight a lot of these battles and sort of stay out of that range using Hurt More and the immense physical attack that he has, but it's just too difficult to fight a lot of those battles when you can't out-heal them.
So now Will is not too far from Sherlock here. Lorgon asking, are there any minimum stats that the randomizer ensures by level 18? And no, the only thing that you're certain of is by level 16 you get all 10 spells. But in terms of statistics, I mean, we have seen tournament races that have gone to level 22, level 23, because they have been that stingy.
Absolutely. I don't really think you can overstate these strength gains are some of the highest you might see at these particular levels, 13 and 14. We've had some races recently where some runners were hoping for these kinds of strength scores at, say, level 19 or level 20.
So Kaiten now, the experience lead, only down to a little under 500.
Yeah, Will's been very efficient in his exploration. He hasn't taken sort of an excessive number of deaths, and you can kind of pick your battles here and there and maybe get some fortuitous RNG and some run chances against some of the more difficult enemies. Then you can close those kinds of gaps just by fighting while you're exploring. He's going to pick up the rainbow drop here.
And here is the drop cave. So Will Wagner now with the Rainbow Drop. And the only things that are missing to take on the Dragon Lord are some more agility, hit points, magic points, defense, and the Heal More spell. And this is level 14.
Sorry about that. Kaiten having some more trouble with those stone men. We saw earlier, I believe, Will used a strategy where he's been casting the sleep spell to put them to sleep first, and then either running away or taking them on with their strength the way it is. You can do about 50 damage or better to a stone man.
And Will is back into Hawk's Nest, and it is Axe Knight grinding time.
And it's really interesting. Will here is, it looks like he's going to choose to just use the 2 attack strategies. Definitely got enough attack power to do this, and without Heal More, he can kind of perhaps extend his grind a little bit by not expending Hurt More spells, so that might be an efficient choice.
And yeah, of note, that's right. The attack power is so high that Kaiten, not having to hurt more Metal Slime, you can just one-shot it. Just attack, and you can get an instant 255 experience points.
Unfortunately, I'm not really sure that either player has encountered a Metal Slime since that one that Kaiten took out to give him that early experience lead.
Well, Kaiten just took one out a bit ago. So he attempted to hurt more at first and did so unsuccessfully. So you can see, even with 2-shotting as opposed to using hurt more, the lead that Kaiten had in terms of experience is now just 17. Oh, wait, now 45. But that'll be wiped away with this next kill of the Axe Knight, and there it is. And Resation noting in chat, yes, it is not often that we see a Metal Slime being attack broken, which that is the case. Normally, when you attack a Metal Slime, because your attack is so low and its agility is so high, that you pretty much have a coin flip as to, usually you'll miss, but sometimes you'll get 1 hit point of damage on it, and it only has 3. In this case, based on the calculations, once you pass that roughly 128 attack power point, and it starts to change the calculations, and you tend to get a little bit, a little bit more of a chance to consistently hit for 1, and then it eventually goes up to 2, and as you saw there, we are so powerful that it hits it for 8, which will instantly one-shot it.
Yeah, sorry about that. I completely missed that Metal Slime.
That's alright. It led me to a little bit of a tangent.
No, it's definitely good information, though. It's just unfortunate they don't really have a way to take advantage of that with better regularity.
Yeah, no, there doesn't seem to be a farmable area for them, as the Green Dragon taking out Kaiten here. And just like that, it's now a 700 experience point lead for WillWagnerMusic.
He's changed his strategy up a little bit here, going with Hurt More instead for what one always hopes is a one-hit kill.
And usually it is. I think Will Wagner is just trying to get enough experience to get to level 15, which that target number is 7,500. So trying to run out of the resources here, hoping that this is the level that gives all the stat boosts, and here we go. Let's see. No power, 7 response speed, 6 hit points, 4 magic points, and there's the spell. Stop spell and heal more.
And as you can see, as soon as he sees he's got that Heal More spell, he turns and books out of Hawk's Nest.
So now you see that the magic points have gone to green. But the concern here, the low agility, means it's going to be very difficult to run from the different enemies in Sharlock. And the defense points being pretty low, that means they're not going to be damage breaking much of anything.
Yes, this is an interesting sort of quandary here. On one hand, it seems at least unlikely up front that you'd be able to make it down to the Dragon Lord with the magic points in reserve that you might want. So I'll be interested to see what Will chooses to do here.
Plus, most of our runners are used to attacking anything above, when they have anything above 48 hit points. But with the Dragon Lord's attack, because of that low defense, it can hit for anywhere between 26 to 52 on our runner, well, on Will at this case, at level 15, with the items that he has, the Erdrick's armor and the large shield. So you have to pretty much go anything 53 or higher you can attack, anything 52 or below you'll want to heal more. And at this point, with the 98 MP, you're looking at, as long as you keep it at that 98 or even maybe use 2 to Radiant or something like that, then you're looking at 12 heal mores.
Given their attack range, which is, I believe, around 13 to 26 on second form of Dragon Lord at this point, that might be all they need.
More than likely. And that's about a 19.5 per. I'm just doing the calculations now.
I'm going to say that's an average of about 8 attacks. Does that sound right?
Yeah, 8 to 9. I mean, say 9 for safekeeping. So Beta Strep noting that, yeah, as long as you get down there with 7 heal mores or 56 MP, then you should be pretty good to go.
So it'll be interesting to see now definitely what enemies exactly we will encounter in Sharlock. This could be a difficult dive, it could be a less difficult dive. In either event, they're going to probably opt to fight their way through rather than trying to run with their agility scores the way they are.
And we've seen that plenty of enemies have that Dragon Lord 2 breath, including the Star Wyvern, but now it doesn't do as much attack, as it's only 42 to 48 as opposed to the 64 to 72.
Yeah, this is probably going to be a different kind of Sharlock dive than we usually see, just because of that agility score you saw Will losing out there to the Stone Man. Probably more advisable with their attack power where it is, that they might want to try to fight their way down and just hope they can conserve enough magic so that they'll have what they need when they finally reach the end.
So Will Wagner stocking up on keys. And I thought maybe for a moment was considering trying to gold grind up to get the silver shield, as that would give an additional 10 defense from what he has with the large shield.
That would definitely help with the overall calculus in the Dragon Lord fight for sure. And even on the way down too for those enemies that are using physical attacks.
And Kaiten finding and taking out another metal slime. As noted in chat that Will had semi-unintentional, well, I would imagine unintentionally, tried to brighten the world by casting Radiant on the overworld.
Those Radiant magic points would actually come in handy, assuming as one might. Well, here he takes the death of the Stone Man, but certainly those 2 magic points are just on that threshold there, so that if he only has to cast Radiant once inside Sharlock, he'll still conserve all of his present uses of Healmore.
But perhaps there may need to, as the chat is noting, that you could use the spell of sleep on the stone men, as they are very susceptible to it and aren't that resistant.
Very true.
And now we see Will Wagner in the treasury in Tantagel. And has acquired everything here, so maybe... Nope, okay, just raiding the treasury, not potentially setting up a gold grind.
They're using the fairy water, presumably to conserve some of that MP.
As now Kaiten has found Cantlin, so is going to get the he's going to get the coordinates.
So now that he has the news, it'll be interesting to see if he attempts to count that out and finds, much like Will did, that he'll have to head through Swamp Cave to get there, or whether or not he'll just opt to attempt to rescue Gwaylin first.
Well, Kaiten trying to get outside the town, and it doesn't quite work that way. Little does he know that he is only 122 experience away from getting that Healmore spell. And sleep not working there on the Snowman, and another death for Will Wagner.
Even before arriving at Charlock, so this will certainly be interesting to see where we progress from here, as Will tries to make progress in Charlock and Kaiten is attempting to catch up.
I know their resistance is pretty low. I want to say that's I was gonna say what, about 2 or 3 out of 16 to that sleep spell is the Stone Man.
Yeah, I believe it's 2.
It is 2 out of 16. So yeah, cut the math in half there. So it's a 1 in 8 chance of resisting. That's about a 12.5%.
So had the right idea, just didn't work out on that occasion.
And Kaiten is taking in the aura that is Breckenary. And he had had enough aura and decided to leave.
And one doesn't want to overdo it. Too much aura can be a problem.
Absolutely, too much of a good thing. So now here is Garenham, as Will now re-enters Charlock. And there's the cursed belt, some money, and the torch for Kaiten, but more so looking to get behind the back of Garenham to trade in that silver harp. Oh, and Will Wagner using the fairy flute to run away.
Yeah, the fairy flute, not requisite, of course, to actually completing the game, but in this case, if there are a lot of golems on this dive, it will certainly be very useful in terms of conserving both HP and MP. If you can just put those golems to sleep. Not ideal in the sense that you do have to play that, and it takes a little while to go through the tune that puts that golem to sleep, but it might just be what helps them reach the bottom floor.
Yeah, better to use those 8 seconds every time you encounter a golem than to potentially lose 3 to 4 minutes by taking a death to the golem and having to trek all the way back to Charlotte Castle. Maybe even more like 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And opting here to pick on the Axe Knights, which I think is probably a good idea. You're only going to take you're definitely going to take them out in 2 hits, and you're going to take a maximum of maybe damage in the low 20s, and you can heal walk that off pretty easily.
Yeah, definitely not in a position to damage break the Axe Knights. Yeah, Axe Knights, they'll be hitting anywhere between 14 and 29 per attack.
Oh, that's right. I perhaps underestimated a little bit. Used to having a slightly higher defense score at this point.
Well, here comes level 15 for Kaiten. And it's happy to see all the spells. Depending on how many Axe Knight encounters Will gets along the way here, could be possible that he might fight his way up to level 16, but I doubt it. He still has another roughly 1,400 experience to go, just a little under that. So that would end up being 11 more Axe Knights. And here's the Red Dragon, the fun police that seems to have given the power to its more deputy-like followers in terms of the Blue Dragon, the Stone Man, and the Armored Knight. The Red Dragon known as the Fun Police because, well, whenever they show up, the fun stops. But Will Wagner able to take it out in this case?
Yeah, a little bit less severe this time than in most. What with the stop spell and the weak breath, the Red Dragon did manage to get one physical attack in on him, but as long as you kind of avoid that, then it actually helps ease this dive a little bit, given all the other dangers that abound.
And Kaiten, meanwhile, is back in Garen's grave. Now, I don't believe that he completely explored the cave, so he's trying to dive deeper in, I would imagine, to get those 2 chests that are at the bottom, because Kaiten never found the Stones of Sunlight. That is correct. So Kaiten might think, okay, the stones are in Garen's grave, deep in the grave, so I've got to go down there to get them, not realizing that they're in fact in the vanilla Stones of Sunlight cave, which he has not yet found.
Yeah, it's just a matter of his exploration really hadn't taken him that direction. It's a pretty easy get, but when you can't locate the cave on the map, then you kind of have to play the odds a little bit, not having gone this far down in the grave to this point. He's got a couple of chests to retrieve, so probably thinks this is a safe bet at this point to hopefully find them.
And we know that the contents of both of those chests are going to be the wings.
So, yeah, just an unfortunate turn of events there.
And Future Sight asking, how close is Will to level 16? Just 700 experience away. As Radio Station noting in chat that yes, the target number of experience, 9,750. Taking out a werewolf, and Kaiten perhaps is opening up a map of Garen's grave.
Yeah, the grave, not exactly the most friendly place to navigate. Here he might be taking the long way around to one of the chests he still needs to retrieve.
That does look to be the case. Kind of dead-ending himself a little bit here.
And it looks like our boss tile was that Armored Knight, and I think Will wants to pick up that level since he's here.
Well, the use of that stop spell, which seems to be pretty frequent, certainly helping. But now realizing, alright, maybe not. And it's just going to kind of walk the floor to heal as Kaiten now acquiring the wings.
So Kaiten knows he's got his work cut out for him. He's got to try to find that Stones of Sunlight cave. Probably only has a few places left that he hasn't quite explored. I'm not quite sure that he's seen the Swamp Cave yet either, which of course he'll need to traverse in order to get the armor.
And at this point, at 9661, is just under 100 experience away, so Will is going to work on this golem here. Whew, the attack's for 58. And here we go with level 16. Three, 9, 6, and well, the magic point's 22, but not able to get them this time around. That'll certainly help if he has to come back. But now the attack power at 156. He has been declared a fool. So this is going to be, my goodness, 14 to 28, I believe, as far as the attack range on the second Dragon Lord.
Yeah, and with 11 heal mortars remaining, you have to imagine that this is just about as in the bag as it gets.
Pending a miss key here in the first attack for 26. And a 27 as well. And there's a 20. They've all been 20 or more.
First sub 20 there.
And there's the commentator's curse. I did it.
Only 18.
Exactly. Only 18. There's another 8. And a 16 now. Unless I missed one, I think we're up to 125. And there's another 17 to make it 140. So this next attack could be the final one.
27 to finish it off.
27, yes it is. So Will Wagner has defeated the Dragon Lord. And despite my commentator's curse, is going to finish first. Get out your GGs in chat, as Will is going to take this with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 48 minutes, and 34 seconds.
I think overall a very efficient job by Will here. It's not an easy map to explore. You had a lot of dangerous enemies seemingly around every corner, and really just kind of plugged away at it, decided to grind a little bit slowly at the first, and then continued from there. So good job to him.
And it looks like Kaiten has just has opted not to finish out the seed and has just entered the forfeit. So we'll see about an interview with either or both of the runners here. Will Wagner is going to go to 1-2 in the tournament, and with 2 rounds left and 3 to get in, uh, could run the table and certainly qualify. Or if nothing else, one more victory will get him into the play-in. Kaiten certainly has Kaiten has his work cut out for him now. 0-3, but can run the table in the last 2 weeks and get into the play-in and be the Cinderella story. As we have both Will Wagner and Kaiten in chat here. GG to the both of you.
Yeah, GG guys.
Was atrocious.
Yeah, the nature of that seed, I thought it would be really interesting to see what your perspectives were on it after.
How's everybody doing?
Completion. Just because of sort of the disproportionate nature of some of the things that were happening. You have that really high attack power, but there's really not much you can do with it, as well as some reasonably difficult exploration.
This whole map actually kind of confused me because of the early didn't know where everything was after I found Rudar way too late after I found Sherlock.
I think what helped me in the beginning, I got a level up before I left the swamp, and I thought I was going to be able to conserve some gold. So I wandered a little bit earlier than I probably should have, and I got in the fringe, and I kind of discovered one town, and I was all the way to the left of the map. And by the time I got there, I had enough for 4 keys, and I figured by getting there a little bit earlier, I helped myself by opening up the treasury and then allowing a gold grind potentially.
Where was the Stones of Sunlight? Because I had trouble finding them.
Those were vanilla.
You know this, but they were in their vanilla location, the Stones of Sunlight Cave. At that point in chat, they were all noting not random enough.
I couldn't find the Stones of Sunlight Cave. No wonder why I couldn't find it.
Yeah, the majority of the items that were needed were in individual spots. The only notable item in the larger caves in terms of chests was Erdrick's sword and Garen's grave. But otherwise, the mountain cave had nothing to it. The tablet cave had the silver harp. The Stones of Sunlight cave had the Stones of Sunlight, and Erdrick's token being in Hawk's Nest, guarded by that axe knight.
I died in both of those caves, just short of getting the last chest, and I went back in there twice, only to find I think it was fairy water and a cursed belt or something like that. And it's one of those things where if you pass it up and you miss Edric's sword, you're gonna be upset. Or if you pass up a quest item, and at that point I hadn't found Edric's token, so I thought it could have been in any chest, and the seed kind of stretched you out.
Yeah, and the practicing I did earlier before today's race, it was a lot easier than this one.
Well, you did get, Kaiten, you did get a little fortune early around just a little before the 7-minute mark, as you happened to get a critical hit on a metal slime that vaulted you from level 4 to level 6. So at that point, you had a pretty notable experience lead that was for the better part of the first hour or so. And then Will, as he was finding some enemies and grinding up, once Hurtmore had been acquired in level 9, that's where things were really off to the races for both of you.
I kind of found out about Hurtmore accidentally because I got into a fight with a rogue scorpion, and I'd been done in a couple times on that trip, and I looked there and I saw it in my menu, and then it just became free flying.
So talk a little bit, both of you. I'm kind of curious here. It seemed like this is one of those seeds where just about anything and everything felt like it had Dragonlord breath.
Oh, Oh boy. It was the same thing in my practice seat, so I knew I was coming into this.
I mean, some of them came right out and used it on one of the first battles, but I think a skeleton was nice enough to wait for like 5 encounters before showing me the fun with breath. And the only 2 creatures who I felt had really great stats were the toughest ones. The AK-47 and Red Dragon both had Stop Spell, which I liked a lot. And the Red Dragon also had low-level Dragon Lord Breath. It's just golems, stone men. It seemed like, I mean, 6 or 7 creatures seem to have Dragon Lord Breath.
Yeah, there was one, I believe, that was unencountered as I'm looking at the stats here. So there were 8 in total. The Drolls had them, but it was a pretty low percentage. The Skeletons, the Wyverns, the Golems, the Star Wyverns, Blue Dragons, Stone Men, and the Armored Knights, all with the Dragon Lord Breath. And considering that 5 of those enemies potentially were in Charlotte Castle, that certainly made for a lot of concern heading in there, especially with the low agility and defense that both of you had.
I felt like one of the wet bandits trying to break into Sharlock. I kept on running into Stone Man who would breath me to death and not let me run, or a Golem who I'd used a fairy flute on. He'd wake up in one turn and then hit me with Dragon Lord Breath. I couldn't break into that place, and then on that last run, I committed to using Sleep and the fairy flute every single time, and I got so many encounters with both Stone Men and Golem that I'm like, if it takes me forever, I'm gonna get down there.
Yeah, the Stonemen, the Golems were like out for blood. I couldn't do nothing. Even if I tried to run, I had to manipulate somehow.
Hawksness was a little bit out of the way, I thought, or it was like in an unorthodox place at the top of the map. And when I got there and I saw Axe Knights, I was pretty pumped up because I'd already done the gold grind. So I had a flame sword and I was able to grind on those Axe Knights for a little bit of an EXP build. And that gave me the ability to check out the rest of the map and finally find Edric's.
Yeah, what I was gonna say, what were both of your reactions when you? I don't know, if you'd gotten that far before hitting the forfeit, finding out the coordinates, seeing, oh, it's only 3 north and 37 west, and then heading over to the west and going, I can't go 37 paces this way. I have to go through the swamp cave.
I figured it was gonna be a swamp cave I had to get through, but when I was trying to count where was the castle, I couldn't count anymore.
At first I was pretty disappointed because I was sure if I could just mark on the other side of that river right next to the castle, if I could just remember which spot on there was even with the castle, I could just pick up the count from there. And I'm walking around and I see a cave and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that that's through the swamp cave anyway. And when I got to the swamp cave guardian and I saw that it was a golem, I knew I was in a decent position to beat it, but I was always at risk with that Dragon Lord Breath of getting crushed because I think I only had a half plate armor at that point.
I was actually so close to concerning to rescue the princess, but I was like, it's like almost like what, an hour 20 in. I was like, I can't risk saving the princess. I got to count the part at this point.
And then I was gonna say the only other question I had, what was going through both of your minds as the strength gains just kept coming and coming and coming throughout the entire seed? It felt like.
I thought it was a gold mine. I was like, okay, I can blaze through this, no problem.
It was a combination of having strength early to get off the initial levels really quickly, but then they also gave you heals so you could survive a little bit because the HP was pretty low for the build, and I found that I was getting one shot a lot. So having heal so I could recover after going out of that poison right outside of Tanagil really helped.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at the head-to-heads here. I mean, roughly 2 to 3 minutes to get to level 2, another maybe minute and a half or so to get to level 3, and then from there you were about 40 seconds apart at level 4. And then, yeah, Kaiten had gotten that metal slime at that point to jump up to level 6 about 7 minutes in. And from there, the lead kind of separated to about 7 minutes or so. By level 9, it was about a 12-minute differential, but by that point, Will, you were doing more of the exploration and kind of picking up the items as Kaiten was getting that experience lead, and then once you had done most of your shopping, or hitting all those grocery items, then you were able to kind of beat up on some enemies along the way, and that chipped away at the lead as Kaiten was running into some of those nasty enemies that were not letting them pass through for anything.
There was like a southern peninsula as you were on your way heading west toward the swamp area over there, where just south is the cave at the bottom of it, but it was really well tucked away. That was the Stones of Sunlight cave, I think, and it was really easy to pass up because if you just kept on going west and didn't bother to go down because you thought it was like a dead end, then you hit that other town, and all the other caves were over there. So it was so easy to pass up. On the first time that I was going through, I was trying to get back to the castle, and I thought I could go south there, and I ended up finding it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the second quest.
Wasn't the coordinates for Edric's armor?
Yes, the coordinates were for the armor.
No wonder why I fell so behind. That was like a horrible.
I got the armor later because it took me a long time to be able to take on the swamp cave. So after I was able to take on the swamp cave, Edric's armor was the last thing I was able to get because that was the only time I was able to take on the Guardian.
Yeah, the Golem was a bit of a bear. I mean, both of you had found the Fairy Flute and Colt pretty early on. The Erdrick's Token in Hawk's Nest, I mean, that was an Axe Knight, and by that point you were both at level 9, so you were salivating over it. And yeah, that only left the overworld spot for the Erdrick's armor, and that was the most challenging thing to acquire for both of you.
One of the things the seed definitely did was it made you hit absolutely everything on the map. Like sometimes you can get a break and you don't have to go to a town, or you know where the Fairy Flute is at Hawk's Nest, so you don't have to stop there. Because the Staff of Rain cave was in the back of Shoptown. Is that Garanham, right?
That's correct, Garanham.
Because the Staff of Rain cave was in the back of there, the fact that there weren't anything in those chests where there could normally be items kind of stunk because you went there for one thing and you were done. Cole, as you mentioned, where you can normally find Edric's armor, or at least the token, had the Fairy Flute. So getting there relatively early didn't help out as much. It wasn't as difficult as it could be if Edric's sword was in Sharlock, but with that power boost early, that was really the only thing we had to go on in the early game until we got hurt more at 9.
And speaking of that early game, Will, talk a little bit about the Mountain Cave gold grind that you had going on.
So I realized after I got the gold chests in the treasury that I'd be able to grind up there if I wanted to. So I decided I was just going to dig into the mountain cave. And after I got down there, I didn't want to use any more keys. So I was like, oh, if I'm going to die on this because it's only one level and I have Radiant, it doesn't really hurt me to come back down here. So I checked the 3 chests at the top. I figured out that the other one was a fairy water. And I'm like, well, I'm up here because I have outside. I might as well grind in the cave anyway now. And that way, if I have a difficulty finding Garanham's grave or the grave cave, at least I can have the gold so that I could find the flame sword or whatever was at that town. I think at that point there was nothing really good there, so I was just taking a stab in the dark. I got, I think, 30,000, and then I got killed by an armored knight, I think. And then I went back in there to get the last item, and I ground up to 24.
And that ended up being enough to get you the flame sword, and you had just enough at around 14,800. I think you had actually 14,801 that you were looking around for a silver shield, hoping that there was a town that would have it. but with the towns being spread so few and far between, it was a matter of time before a death had occurred.
It was that there was a very linear path that we had to go through that was a cavern of really tough monsters where there was a red dragon right outside Tentacle that would get me 1 out of every 3 or 4 times. And, you mark that up as a loss. But when I was going back through there and I kept on hitting more and more questionably difficult creatures like the Wyvern, once you throw Dragon Lord Breath into the equation, okay, now that's the second one that I'm going to have difficulty running from potentially that can kill me in one shot. So it was going through a grind just to get to the area where you could get more swamp tiles and then eventually reach a town. It was a tough stretch to just get to the second town in the game.
It was indeed tough, but you had made your way through it. So now you're at 1 and 2 here after 3 Swiss rounds. Kaiten, definitely have your work cut out for you, but certainly not an impossible feat. So now we will see how the rest of this week's Swiss rounds play out, and then we have week 4 starting this coming Monday.
Well, I mean, I think that makes I got to go 1 and 1 over the next 2 matches and make it into the play-in round, which is awesome. I'm pumped about that, but hopefully next time I can get a seed that's a little bit less demoralizing.
I agree with that, Will. That is no doubt. That was demoralizing me already.
Yeah, I think we can all hope for that.
Most certainly. And taking a look, it looks like the other seed had finished up. I was going to see if we were going to send a host over to there, but it looks like that one's finished up as well. As it was Silverfire taking out Lavkian. Silverfire with a time of 1 hour, 30 minutes, and 42 seconds, and Lavkian forfeiting after that, and it looks like they're in their post-game as well. So it looks like that's going to just about wrap things up here for tonight. However, stay tuned among the Randomania networks, as it looks like we have a 4-pack of races coming your way tomorrow night, including at 7 p.m. Eastern. It looks like it's going to be Tyrnex against the Seawolf 1. At 7:30, it looks to be, that's right, the 7:30 matchup between Edgeworth and Dataplet. Looks like they're hoping to reschedule as there was some emergency circumstances, so we'll see how that goes here. Also, looks like at the 9 o'clock time frame tomorrow night, it's going to be McGrew, the creator of the game, against former champion Game Boy F9. And then at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, it's going to be Azrael Ravenheart against JJ Schmidt 77. And then the remaining 2 matchups, one of those is going to be on Saturday evening and the other on Sunday evening. And at the conclusion of that, it looks like we will have the rolling of the round 4 matchups, where the Swiss style will continue. So you'll see the competition of those who went 3-0, those who went 2-1, those who went 1-2, and those who went 0-3 will face off against one another as we continue to make our way through the 5 Swiss rounds of the tournament.
Well, GG Kaiten, thank you everybody for your help in streaming and tracking, and Ferran on commentary, and Archfield Monk. It was a fun seed, and hopefully next one can be a little bit easier to find that Edric's armor, so I don't get beat up by.
Yeah, there are certainly challenges with every seed. Every seed has a different story to tell, and we're here to try to help narrate at least a little bit here. So make sure to give both of our runners a follow here, WillWagnerMusic and kaiten619. Also want to thank behind the scenes here Ouija Wee, who was doing the restreaming for us, and CyberDark86 taking care of the tracking. And Archfield Monk, this is your debut commentary here among the Dragon Warrior Randomizer community. What did you think of things here today?
Well, I will say this, it definitely helps to have someone as expert as you are on the play-by-play there. Definitely made me feel a little bit more at home and comfortable. So thank you for that, and for everybody else involved behind the scenes for that as well. Looking forward, hopefully, to doing a little bit more in the future, and hopefully even doing a little bit better as I start to shake the rust off here.
Well, looking to improve, that's what we're all doing, whether it be in actually playing the game, whether it be in commentary, whether it be in making sure that the computer's powerful enough to restream, whether it's the tracking, making sure that that's efficient. It's all part of the production here among the Randomania networks to try to present a whole host of content here as things go along. Well, that's going to just about wrap it up here. So make sure to give everybody a follow for WeeJuWee and CyberDark86, our two runners, kaiten619 and WillWagnerMusic. And for my co-commentator, Archfield Monk, I'm Ferran Burgundy saying until next time, may your moves be excellent and your seeds stay classy. So long, everyone.
Thanks.
Night, everyone.